Hi, I'm Johnny and you're watching the Hexy Beast. And have you ever wondered what it'd be like to play the Deadeye from Pleasent Company games? Well, tough luck, I'm telling you anyway. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a brief overview of how the game plays. And basically, you're going to have a deck of 14 cards in your hand, half of which will have these sort of pass icons that are known as juice, and these sort of fail icons that are known as heat. The game is basically played out in 3 phases. The first phase is basically filling this encounter slot. And you'll do that either with a story card, which will be up here. In fact, this one has a 0 distance requirement, so this one starts up here. So basically you're going to either choose to fill it with this one, or you're going to choose to fill it with one from your hand. So in this case, I'm going to choose to fill it with one from my hand. Now the idea is you can either evade it and push it off to the side it belongs to, which is dictated by this icon, or I can try to encounter it, and if we take a closer look at the card, we're basically going to draw cards from our hand and they'll go either side of the card. So this would require 1 juice, for me to discard 1 juice in order to gain it as a distance card. Which, if we look at this next story card, we actually have a 2 distance unlock requirement, so we kind of need that. So next, if we were to fail the card, and they always resolve left to right, so if a fail would happen before success, the fail would happen first. We would basically have to add 2 of these hope cards to our discard pile, which is by here. And basically, if any of these decks run out and we need to draw from them again, we lose the run. At that point, we would basically discard 1 from each of these decks, then add a new one, and there's basically reserve decks of both hope and strength cards. Once that one's out, your entire run will complete, and the goal is basically to get to all the safe havens, which are hidden without this story deck, throughout the story deck even. And basically when we reach the last one, we'll have completed the run. So anyway, so the first step, we got our encounter in, which is this tunnel, which in order to succeed and get its distance, we need 1 juice. So we're going to choose to press on and see what happens. And luckily for us, we knew that was coming though, we got a success, which means we would then discard this and gain this to the distance. Right here, this now means we have 1 distance, and we need 2 distance. If we take a look at our map, we need 2 distance in order to encounter it. So let's move on to the next one. This is the melt. It'll take 2 to pass and 1 to fail, so let's fail. I thought I would. So basically, yeah, as you can see, that failed the card, which means we'll both discard this, because it will resolve left to right, and we'll also add 1 of these cards in. And basically, the game just keeps going like that until you either fail everything or pass everything. So say if I was to actually pass this, it would also become a distance, but there's also other cards when you pass, which if we have a look at the map, once we add it to the story encounter thing, has this little icon on. It will basically go into our rig, discarded. And there's also a reset card that comes out of the deck in your hand, which will basically untap everything and allow you to use the abilities which are printed on the bottom. So in this case, the map would allow us to discard the top card of the draw deck. So if we had a lot of these strength cards in, which we knew were always fails, yeah, and they came to the top of our deck, we could use that map to say, no, actually, I'm going to discard that. It's going to come back later, but it means that we no longer have to worry about it being a definite fail. So yeah, so once you get cards in your rig, eventually you will work your way through the story cards, and then you will pass them, you'll get your map, and then eventually you'll reach one of these cards. This will basically allow you to go up. You'll then pull out all the hope and all the strength cards, and then you would basically carry on. Okay, so now we've had a quick overview of how the game is played. Let's just get back to the table and talk about what we think in each section of its scoring. Okay, so the first scoring category we're going to be doing this time is going to be aesthetics, and I've decided to give it an 8 for aesthetics because I actually think it looks quite pretty. I think the art on all the cards is actually really nice, and probably something I didn't mention in the overview is the fact that the game comes with 2 sets of 3D glasses and a set of glasses for people who already wear glasses, so you can hook them over your frames, which I thought was a nice feature because the 3D actually really helps. One of the things it was good fun to experience the 3D with was when cards are tapped sideways. The 3D effect doesn't quite work, but when you reactivate them, the art just kind of pops back off and it kind of makes the card feel really nice. Obviously, because of its 3D art, it meant that it kind of went for like a sort of simplified, heavy-lined, early comic book style, and I know it might not be to everyone's tastes, but I really enjoyed it, and aesthetically I thought it really deserved 8 points out of 10, so for that reason, that's why it's got 8 out of 10. Now let's move on to the next category. Okay, now let's move on to gameplay, and this is kind of where the game kind of had a few problems for me. I think it kind of relies way too heavily on luck, and for that reason, that's why I've given it a 6 out of 10 for gameplay. Although it was quite fun to go through a few times, eventually, once I'd seen everything that reserves deck it had to offer, I kind of got bored with it. It's kind of like, you don't really have much agency in it. Once you do a lot of plays and you fail a lot of times, you kind of see that the only reason you're failing is because of the luck aspect. Yes, you can postpone cards and stuff, and it is quite a fun mechanism at first, but I think it won't stick around for long. So I think if you're going to get it as sort of like a quick lunchtime game. The other few mechanisms I didn't like is that one of those cards in your starting deck is actually a random, in some cases can be basically a game-ending card that can come out just after a shuffle. Even though you've kind of rigged your deck ready and you've got all the nice things in your rig, it can just kind of ruin your day very quickly. And often I just find myself stuck on like the second milestone, the second safe haven, just like, oh, look at me again, look at me again. And then before I knew it, I'd run out of cards in the reserves and the game was over. So for that reason, that's why I've decided to give it a 6 for gameplay. Okay, so that brings us on to accessibility, and I've decided to score this one quite highly because I thought the rulebook is actually very good at explaining a lot of its concepts and has a lot of like decent diagrams and stuff. And I also thought it was a really good idea the way they've set it out. There's also a lot of like supplemental materials, like a cool little 3D comic book, which if you had your 3D glasses on now, you probably see it. And like I do like the fact that it comes with 2 pairs of normal 3D glasses, and then another pair for the frames of people who already wear glasses, which was actually really good for my wife. It's just going to score really well in accessibility. It's got like a making of that explains how all the art came together and how they do the 3D effect as well. So it's just generally a very accessible game. There really isn't much in the way of rules for you to like trip over. If you can tuck something under and then just move things left and right until you either pass or fail. It really is very much a luck dependent game though, so if you have a problem with like losing a lot, it's probably not the game for you. So anyway, that was accessibility. Let's move on to the total score. Okay, so now let's move on to the total scores, and that gives a Deadeye a total of 7.3 out of 10. Like I said, its heavy reliance on luck kind of brought it down a little, but I really did enjoy its 3D effect, and I thought the game was very accessible. So anyway, if you've been enjoying the content, or just like anything you see here, please feel free to smash that subscribe button up there, and check out another one of my videos by here. Anyway, I've been Johnny, you've been watching the Hexy Beast, thank you for watching, and most of all, stay Hexy everyone!